So today we're going to be talking about Riot's new schedule for the VCT, which if you've been following the VCT for the past couple of years, you know the schedule probably hasn't been great and a lot of people have complained about it. But this one, I think a lot of people will be pretty happy with because I think this is a pretty good schedule and some of the other changes they made are also pretty good. So let's dive into some of the things that they have changed, right? So the first thing we need to note, of course, is there now 12 teams in each league. This will stay the same for probably as long as the VCT is running. 12 is obviously a nice number to run with, which obviously makes sense. So let's talk about, first of all, when the season starts. So the kickoff tournament, which is the first tournament we will get into, you can see the dates of when they start here. So we're starting in mid-January. This is the first big thing that's kind of changed, that we are starting the season earlier and we are ending the season later. There's going to be more gaps in between. So this I think is just good, right? Shorter off season as well. That's also good. So yeah. And the top two will qualify to Masters Bangkok. So this is the way that the kickoff tournament will work. The top 4 teams, so the 4 teams that went to champs last season, they will, start here with a bye, depending on where they finished in champs in their respective region. And then you've got the other 8 teams here, will have to start in this game, and it's just a double elim bracket. And the top 2 teams, they will go to Masters Bangkok. Now, just quickly, here are the dates for all the international tournaments. There isn't any ticket information, if you're wondering, as far as I could tell just yet. But here are the dates. Masters Bangkok, Feb 20th to March 2nd. Masters Toronto, June 7th to June 22nd. And Champs Paris, September 12th. And we are ending in October. As I said, kind of pushing the end of the season a bit further back. For those of you wondering, the Masters schedules and Champs schedules are basically exactly how they were last year. So Bangkok is the same as Madrid, where it's 8-team Swiss, followed by 4-team double elim bracket. Toronto is the same as Shanghai, where the top teams from the playoffs of stage 1 get a bye, and then it's an 8-team Swiss into a double elim. And Champs Paris is just 4 groups of 4 into an 8-team double elim bracket. So all of that is staying the same. But something has changed for champs, and that is how you qualify, because before it was just 1 team based on champs points. Now it's the top 2 from the playoffs and 2 based on the championship points. So championship points are going to be more important because now there's 2 slots up for grabs from the champs points as well. So let's just get through some of the bigger details here, which is the new champs point system. Okay. So similar to last year, champ points will be distributed across every stage and competition, but they have changed basically how they will work, right? So here is how the new champs points will work. Now, you'll remember that last year, it was basically if you won kickoff, you got 3 points and no one else got anything. The same for Masters Bangkok, the same for Masters Toronto as well. Right, so they've changed that, as you can see right now. The winner, second, third, and fourth, you're getting some amount of points here, basically for not winning it, right? You still get 1 point per win in stage 1 and stage 2, like it was last year. But basically, if you do well but don't win, you still get points. So this was a big problem for Team Heretics last year, who just kept coming second in all of these events, right? And they were getting no champs point for it. They came second in kickoff. They came second in Masters Toronto. They came second in the playoffs. Masters Toronto, Masters Shanghai. They came second in the playoffs as well to qualify for that. So they just kept coming second and getting 0 points, despite the fact that they were the best performing team throughout. Whereas now, obviously, that will probably reflect that if a team does end up with that. Also, you'll note that we do get kind of more points as we go on, right? So you can see, for instance, the stage 2 playoffs, like winners get 7 points, whereas stage 1 it's only 5, right? Same for Masters Toronto, the winners getting 7, whereas Bangkok it's only 5. So as we go more deep into the season, basically, finishing high in these tournaments, becomes more rewarding. You're going to get more for it. There's also some important details here about how the league will be formatted as well, right? So before we had just a big round robin, right? You would play everyone, but now the changes to acknowledge here that we're moving away from a full round robin spanning stage 1 and 2. Each stage will now divide teams into 2 groups of 6, competing in a round robin format within their group, with the top 4 teams from each group qualifying to playoffs. Groups will be shuffled for stage 2, aiming for better balanced matchups leading to the final playoffs of the season. Now, that will mean that you could be in the same league as someone, right? But you never actually play them in a season. And there will be essentially some teams that, you will play twice. I don't know how exactly the shuffling will work. They just say it'll be shuffled. We don't really know. They say it'll be for better balanced matchups. Don't know how that'll work. I guess maybe they'll do kind of a seeding of where everyone is and try and, go like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? I guess, maybe, I don't really know. But yeah, that's certainly an interesting change that they've made. And also playoffs will now expand to 8 teams, keeping more teams alive and in the hunt for an extended period of time. That means that 2/3 of the league will have a significantly longer season and more chance to qualify for global events. Playoffs will move to a double elim format, with the top 2 teams getting a bye to the second round. So if you've got 2 groups, right, if you finish top of your group, you get a bye into the second round. And if you're the 4th place team that kind of squeaks in, then you start in the lower bracket with a 0-1 record. Now, that to me just makes sense, right? I think that is a great change. It gives more teams a chance potentially to make it to these international events, right, and go on some kind of heroic, lower bracket run throughout, which I think is great. And also, you still are incentivized to win as many games to finish top of your group, right? We're not going to end up with a bunch of meaningless games, towards the end of it, because, there's going to be competition to get into first. And there's a difference as well between finishing 3rd and 4th. So you'll want to finish 3rd and not 4th, right? And then those teams at the bottom will be like, we want to get to 4th to get that chance, right? So there should be basically, hopefully, not many, if any, meaningless games kind of in that last week of the season. Every game hopefully should have something on the line, which should be really good. And so, on the whole, I think these changes are just very, very good, right? I think all of them are leading to a better schedule overall. Here is like all of the actual dates themselves, if you want them. So, for instance, like stage 1, is March 22nd to April 25th, with the playoffs May 3rd to the 16th. With little things like this, right? We are adding more gaps, right? So there's a gap in between the playoffs here, right, and the end of stage 1. You'll notice that there is a significant gap, right? If we look at in between Masters Toronto and the playoffs, right, we end May 16th but start June 7th, right? So we got like a 3-week gap here, and the same thing here as well. We're starting July 12th, ending on the 22nd, so we're getting like significant gaps here, kind of between the kind of different parts of the season and in between the international tournaments themselves, which I think is good, because a lot of players complained about, like, hey, if you go deep in these international tournaments, the way this season was scheduled before is like you'd have like 1 week in the season and you were back playing again, like straight away, right? No time to have off, which I think obviously this is good. Now, what you will see, one big change I think that you might get this year because of like this extended gap, right? If you're someone who doesn't make Masters Toronto, for instance, you've got a significant amount of time here before you play again, right? And because now stage 1 and stage 2 don't both qualify for champs, right? Obviously the championship points do, but basically stage 2 has more importance now because it's kind of on its own, solitary to qualify for champs, right? So with this bigger gap, I think it might be possible you might see more roster moves mid-season, right? You might get some roster moves in this kind of general vicinity to try and get good for stage 2, basically, because that's on its own now to qualify for champs, which obviously all of the orgs care about. And also don't forget there will be an Ascension tournament here. The Ascension tournaments have to be after champs because of the way the new Ascension tournaments are formatted as well. So you will also get some Ascension tournaments here probably in kind of late October, I would assume, for each of the regions. So overall, just kind of a general just good. I think everything that they've done here is good. Starting the season earlier, ending the season later, good. More gaps in between, good. Championship points changed, good. Everything is good. I think that this is probably a schedule that you will see going forward from this point on in Valorant. I don't think the schedule will see much major adjustments like it has this time. I think this will probably be there for the long haul.